Hello friends, so today is the art of the belly pop. So it literally means just contracting your belly button in and releasing, contracting in and releasing. And it's really, as you can imagine, good for toning your ab muscles. So as ever, belly dance posture. So slightly soft knees, little pelvic tuck, and just think belly button. I like when I'm doing stomach moves, I like to have my hands lightly resting just on my hip bones at the front. It keeps my shoulders down, and it's just an easier way to access the abs, because when your chest is slightly lifted, it isolates this area more easily. So you have a lifted chest, a pelvic tuck, and just pull the belly button in as strongly as you can, and then release. You squeeze it in tight and release. Squeeze in tight and release. Squeeze in tight and release. Now, what is often happens, and it's quite understandable, but what happens is when people pull it in tight, when they release, they then tilt and compress in the back here. You're trying to isolate just the stomach, so you're not moving your pelvis at all. So keep that tucked, and then a little bit of tension already in the belly, and then just pull it in and then pull it in. So you don't have to consciously push it out to pull it back in again. What happens each time you want to pull it in, your body naturally releases enough to then contract again. So all you basically have to focus on is pull in, pull in. Okay, so try and maintain that pelvic tuck. If you don't trust yourself, stand against a wall. Okay, or what you can do is just place your hands just in your lower back to make sure that pelvis stays stable and tucked and doesn't move, and just pull in the belly button. Remember to keep the rib cage lifted to get that separation, so you can isolate. Pull in and in and in. Now the other thing about this move is remembering to breathe. I know, but it will come quite naturally. Try not to consciously go because when you're dancing or in the midst of a move, you can't do deliberate breath with it, because you're moving around, you're just breathing naturally. So try not to think too much about that. Just think in, 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 in. Keep that rib cage lifted, keep the tailbone tucked. I know it's a lot to think about, and just belly button, belly button, belly button, belly button. Pull in and in and in and in. And it doesn't matter if you don't feel like it's making a massive difference, because it's always noticeable, it's always worthwhile. And the more you do it, even in 10 minutes of doing this, the pull gets stronger as you start toning up those muscles. So what we're now going to do is pull in. So keep that tailbone tucked, pull in, hold it, and now squeeze it in some more. Even if you don't feel it's moving in some more, just imagine that you are, because your body will be going in that direction. Okay, now we're going to release for 2, 1, 2. And again, with the release, you don't tilt in the back, always tailbone tucked, as I said, hands there or stand against the wall. And here we go. So pull in and in, release, release, 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 pull in and in, release, release. Now, if you add your pelvic floor muscles, you'll get an even stronger pull in. And if you do that on the second one, so as you pull in, on the next pull in, tighten everything, and it will go in much further, and you'll feel the pull down here. So release, release, pull in, pelvic floor 2, release, release. Pull in, pelvic floor 2, release, release. Pull in, pelvic floor as well, release, release. Pull in the pelvic floor, release, release. In, crunch it, 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 release, release. Don't worry if you're a bit out of breath. As I said, it takes time to just get used to it without having to think about the breathing. So I'm sure you've got that nailed now. So we're going to do a little level change. So feeling nice and grounded, pelvic tuck, just going to squeeze the belly button in, release it, and then sink a little, squeeze. So it's like you're sitting on a chair that's not there. Release, and then crunch, and then come up, 2, 3, 4. So you're gradually straightening and then lowering. So 1, 2, 3, 4, come back up, 2, 3, 4, going down, 2, 3, 4, coming up, 2, 3, 4, going down, 2, 3, 4, and up, 2, 3, 4, go down, 2, 3, 4, coming back, 2, 3, and 4. Good. So now what we're going to do is doubles. So we're going to squeeze in the belly standing, 1 and 2, and then you're going to sit and do 1 and 2. And also when you sit, you'll notice it's more your lower abs that engage, and when you're standing up, especially if your chest is raised, it's more your upper abs. So even though it's still your belly button that you're pulling in, it changes parts of the abs which are being used. So it's a really good toner all round. So on the standing one, although you still have a tail tuck, so you're just about to sit down, you still want a nice chest lift. So it's tail tuck but chest raised. And then when you squeeze and you squeeze, you'll feel these muscles work. Then you sit down, and this time, because you're sitting, it starts working into the pelvis, and so you squeeze and you squeeze. And it doesn't matter if your tailbone pulls upwards because of the strength of the contraction, but don't worry if it doesn't either. As they get stronger, they start to pull up the pelvis. It's all right if the pelvis goes upwards, it's just you don't want to tilt into it. But if it's coming upwards because of the contraction of the muscle, that's all good. So 2 standing, ready? So chest nice and lifted. Try not to arch in the back. You're trying to go up. So crunch and crunch. Now sit, crunch and crunch. Stand, chest lifted, crunch and crunch. Sit, crunch. Remember that pelvic floor too that you can use. So up and crunch. When you sit, crunch the pelvic floor, up and up, crunch and crunch. Okay? So a few more times. I know it's a good workout, isn't it? So tailbone tucked, chest lifted, crunch and crunch, sit, crunch and crunch, up and up, down and down, up and up. So you can really feel how the muscles here work and then the muscles here work. Up and up, down, crunch, in, pelvic floor. Try not to use your buttocks. You're isolating the belly button, so the only thing you have to think about is pulling in that belly button. Okay, shake it out. If you're starting to get aches down the middle of your back, excellent, that's good work, because that means those posture muscles are working hard and getting toned and strong too, so that's a positive. But if you need a little bit of a break, just grab your elbows, have a nice stretch, have a little twist, just relieve that out a little bit. And for the final, we're going to travel with a belly pop. So my favourite way is by sitting into it with one leg forward because it's much easier to engage and get a more dramatic crunch in. So we're going to pull in for 2, then take a step, keep low, keep the knees soft, crunch for 2. Take another step, crunch for 2, and crunch for 2. Step it back, 1 and 2, 1 and 2, 1 and 2, 1 and 2. Lovely. And then we can go into singles. So really tiptoe to the floor, crunch, crunch. Just squeeze in all the stomach muscle that you can find, but it's your belly button. You focus on the belly button. Use your pelvic floor as well. Crunch and crunch and crunch. Makes a more interesting travelling move when you can add a little bit of ab pumping. And well done. Have a good stretch in the shoulders. Loosen it all up. If you got through that, if you do that at least once a week, you'll really notice a difference in your belly tone. Well done.